Hello. I felt as though I hadn't made a video of somewhat controversial nature in a while, particularly on current events. Um, Figured I'd make one now anyway. The other day there was a fire in the Bronx that was accidentally started by what they believe a 3-year-old playing with a stovetop, and the fire was able to spread because the mother had taken both her children out of the building but left the door open, and it acted like a chimney and just spread throughout the house. Not the house, the apartment complex. Um, what I've read on the CNN webpage, I spent 10 minutes doing my research on this. So, I mean, in all actuality, I really shouldn't be talking about this subject, but there was an aspect of it that I wanted to bring up that a lot of people won't think to remark upon. And it most certainly is the aftermath of such a thing. Of course, it's a great, horrible thing. 12 people lost their lives, and one of them not being 1 years of age. That's a very horrible thing. So the question is, who is to blame? I mean, in that instant where that woman made the wrong decision by not closing the door, that was animal instinct on her part. She was taking her children and getting out as fast as possible. Uh, I wouldn't know offhand, but I don't think that was done in any sort of malicious manner. She was just panicking and she fled. Uh, it's the fight or flight response, and she flew. And I can't say anyone else would act any different in that situation, but it had its consequences. And you know, directly, will anything be done against her? I don't think so. Um, she'll obviously have to move away because 12 people died, uh, including an infant. And there are going to be people there who despise her because they will blame her for what happened, and they would be not wrong in doing so. Um, I mean, uh, it's just one of those things. Um, yeah. So when I was saying directly, would she be punished? I rather doubt it in any kind of significant manner. I couldn't see her doing that in a malicious manner. Maybe the story will change. I doubt it though. However, there is other ways where you can kind of punish someone, but it's more closing the door to opportunities in the future. And it's kind of a spooky ideological belief that I believe the upper crust of society has, in the sense that um, the mother of the two, um, she made a decision that cost the lives of 12 people. Um, and it wasn't illegal because stuff happens in the heat of a moment. But there are other ways of depriving someone, and it's very easy to do in this situation because X amount of people died, and one thing they could do and probably will do to some extent, and part of that will be for her own good as well, is a thing called being sent to Coventry, where they put you somewhere where people don't talk to you, they don't acknowledge you. It's like you're invisible. And, it takes a group effort to make this work, but there are occasions when it is the appropriate course of action. Um, and in doing so, you deprive someone of having a social life. Obviously, this woman is going to have people in her life that she's known a long time, and they're not gonna, flip-flop on the decision to not be around her because of this, or some of them won't anyway, probably. I don't know, who knows? Um, but as far as anyone out of her social circle, it'll be like this underlying message in the area, oh, don't go near her because she's responsible for 12 people dying indirectly. And well, a lot of people are going to go, well, I don't like her because of that anyway. And the powers that be have the ability to manufacture a way of telling a story, if not outright lying about certain things, to get most people to kind of go along with that idea. They spend all day thinking up of what's the best rhetoric to tell people, what's the best lies, what's the best way to pitch a certain scenario to get the desired result. And no doubt in my mind that the mother of the two children should be punished in some way or another. And this being sent to Coventry is more effective if the person is unaware that they're there, um, because then they don't think to understand that concept. And then most people in that situation, um, they become a recluse on their own anyway, and then it becomes part of their routine, and that becomes their life. But in a sense, they have been deprived of opportunity, and they've been deprived of a normal social life. And there will be people that know them well enough that will say unkindly things. And in this particular situation, I think it's justified. Um, and it was just a little bit of thoughtlessness on her part. She panicked. She just made a slightly wrong decision, and it had big time consequences. Um, and there are people who will push that agenda. I'm just saying, I think that it's a theory that I think is quite credible. I think that is a type of scenario that could happen. And then you hear about her children, um, aged 3 and 2, I believe. Okay, supposing as a hypothetical, the 3-year-old did start that fire, and the mother, you know, saw the fire and fled, and her negligence on closing the door behind her, uh, that's all factually accurate. Um, is the punishment going to be extended further? I mean, technically, the 3-year-old started the fire. I mean, no court uh, officially would ever condemn a 3-year-old to anything. Not in the Western world. Maybe, well, probably in places like India and Africa and, in Asia, like dirt, disgusting trash places like that, but not here in the Western world. No, no, no. However, being 3 years of age, the term being sent to Coventry, never would have heard of it. Uh, I've barely heard of it. I don't know anybody who's heard of it before, but it is a thing where just the community around an individual will refuse to talk to them. And most people have social mechanisms where they just get irritated or, avoid the conversation with the person they don't want to have it with. Now, if you're 3 years of age and you grow up in a world where that's where it is, um, the people who remember this story, say in 20 years' time, a lot of them will still be around, and they treat this 3-year-old who would be 23 at the time like crap. Um, and I'm not saying like beating him up or something like that, or anything of that nature. I'm just saying you could treat someone like crap just by depriving them opportunity to be successful. And some people go, well, that's a malicious thing to do. He was 3 years old. He's not cognitively functional, and therefore, he can't be blamed for that. Well, that is true. Um, the thing is, there are a lot of people out there who work very hard their whole lives and accomplish nothing, and they don't have, skeletons in their closet. They just, had bad luck because, there really is only X amount of financial resources available for people. And, sometimes that sort of stuff comes easier to other people. And some people work very hard and never get it. And, you know, if you look at it from that perspective, you could say, well, um, there's tens of hundreds of thousands of people who are dirt poor anyway and did nothing wrong. Um, this young boy growing up dirt poor, what's it to anyone else? Like there are lots of other people who are dirt poor and um, you know don't ever get the opportunity. So why should this child get the same opportunity as other ones who've done nothing wrong? That's not you know directly screwing them over, but it is a thing, and it takes a group effort, as I said. But this is on CNN's webpage and all that. They will invest the time to talk to the right people in the area to get the desired result. But in actuality, the mother of the two will probably be sent somewhere else in the country, probably because the Latino, uh, I guess he's the grandfather of the infant that was killed, or um, yeah, he was the grandfather or great uncle or something like that. Anyway, his name was Batiste, so he's got to be a Latino. He would not have taken that well, and nobody would, but Latinos tend to get a little bit belligerent in such instance. Um, I mean, I'm not saying that to his uh, not saying that as an insult to him. That's very good reason for anybody to be very angry. Um, However, he would not be allowed near them. Uh, like that decision automatically would have been made by the powers that be. So anyway, to sum up this video, I'm saying that I think there's a distinct possibility that this young boy, as he grows up, um, will have a more difficult life than he would have had to have before. And, he wasn't cognitively functioning well enough to understand anything. In fact, if no one tells him that it happened, he'll completely forget in a few years because he's only 3 years of age. I mean, these people who say, "Oh, I remember things when I was 2 years old" and things like that. I have a theory about that. Those people who remember those things only remember because it's either a very distinct thing to have happened, or they had an older relative reminding them every once in a while, probably very often. Because, I mean, I remember stuff when I was really young, but I don't remember that much. And that's because my parents did not remind me of things. Like, I cringe at the thought of watching my Disneyland vacation back in the 90s when I was like 8 years old. I cringe. Uh, not because they were particularly bad, although we had really dated haircuts. I think I had a bowl cut or something like that. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. I was trying to be serious, but then I had to bring up that to make a point. Um, so, yeah, I mean, as far as being sent to Coventry and being denied the ability to be successful in life, that could affect them in so many aspects. And the thing is, he will likely not know any of it or why. He'll just think, oh, I'm just another guy down on his luck, and there are a lot of people like that. As I said, had done nothing wrong, and it's just the way it is because there's a lot of people down on their luck. I mean, I'm sure if by some miracle that boy grew up into, like very successful, outstanding person, that thought would piss off a lot of people if it were brought to light. Um, because they'd go, well, look what happened because of him, and now he's living successful, he's doing this and that, and the thing about that is, um, it would have to be something extraordinary for that to come about. Um, I think anyway, this is all working theory. Like you don't read this stuff on the internet. It's not available. Um, um, I think there had to be a number of obstacles to overcome to sort of understand what's going on, and maybe people in bureaucratic positions could explain this a bit better than me. But I think I got a working idea. I mean, yeah, because I mean, there's lots of reasons why people get sent to Coventry. I mean, anyone who does know the word does associate it with, really bad things like people in halfway houses and junkies and all that other stuff. But there's all kinds of reasons why you could be sent to Coventry. They just calibrate the social mechanics of it depending on case to case, and it's actually not very hard to do. Um, Especially in this day and age where everything's on the computer. So, I mean, whereas before, if you were treated like shit in a small town, you could move and that problem would go away. But in today's world, um, one bureaucrat can shoot an email to another one to where you moved, and you may not actually be on the books as guilty as anything, but that could still apply. Like in this situation here, like the woman and her two children will not be on the books as having done anything specifically wrong. Um, I don't think she'll receive any charges for what she did. Um, but there isn't anywhere they can go to where that won't be remembered by the locals, the local bureaucrats. Um, okay, well, this is a very crude definition of how that could be applied to a situation and be effective, and in some cases be the appropriate thing to do. I mean, nobody really thinks about punishing a 3-year-old for something like that, but I mean, as I said, there's a lot of people who grow up and they grow up very poor and they did nothing wrong. So why should someone who, inadvertently did do something wrong, be allowed to be successful when those resources aren't available for people who have not done wrong to be successful? And not only that, but some people who have not done wrong and actually were really great people anyway. They just, came from a really poor family. There's also really poor people that are, they're still on board, they're still decent citizens, human beings, and they still get the shaft. I mean, um, yeah, it's just one of those things, depriving people of a normal life. And, depending on the situation, it can result in calibration of theory and social mechanics. All that kind of crap I don't understand. There's gonna be, people who, studied that kind of stuff, went to school for that sort of stuff, and yeah, they're assholes. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap this video up. Um, yes, truly horrible things are gonna happen, but it is what it is. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later.